Well, hey guys, today we're going to cover standard 7.4, which is the Holocaust. Just a little side note. You might think, if you're paying attention, wait, we haven't covered standard 7.3, which is kind of the progression of World War II, how we fight the Germans, how we fight the Japanese. And you're right, we haven't covered those yet. I'm switching them around because I think Monday is a longer day. I want you to spend more time on Monday than I do over the weekend doing work for me. And so this is to help this weekend be a little bit lighter than it might have been otherwise. Okay. Hopefully this is helpful. We'll see. Y'all, there is a very good chance that you've covered a lot of this stuff about the Holocaust in the past. So I want to make sure that you are, sorry, I just had a thought. But I do want you to go ahead and watch the video. There are one or two things that might be new to you. And even if not, I think it's good to have a refresher on it. Final note before we jump in, I have had to edit this a little bit. YouTube actually deleted my old version of the Holocaust video. I think they didn't like that I had included some pictures of what had happened to folks in the Holocaust. So anyway, if this seems kind of a sanitized version of it, that is why. So let's go ahead and take a look at the standard 7.4 content. And I will say this, standard 7.4 is technically about long-term impacts of the war. And the first thing that it dives in talking about is the positive impact, which is that the Great Depression is over. Okay, it's not like, you know, we end the war and we're still in the middle of this, because we have jobs for almost everybody. Whether you are white, black, male, female, we can find a job for you. And not only that, but during the war, people can't just go out and spend money left and right because there's rationing. There are limits on what can be produced because so much has to be produced for the war effort. So as soon as the war ends, all these people have pockets full of cash that they go out and spend. The Depression is now over because that stimulates the economy. Boom, we're in it. There are other things that continue after the war, and that is probably the worst of them is the Holocaust and the continuing anti-Semitism that you should know about. So I want to talk about something really quick, something that I think will help you make sense of this as much as is possible anyway. So one of the questions that comes up is why the Jews? Why does Hitler hate the Jews so much? And my first slide here is about the Holocaust is about the idea that Hitler plays on these old prejudices and the idea of social Darwinism. Okay, social Darwinism kind of makes sense. It's the idea that certain people groups are, you know, above, better suited for the world than other people. And Hitler literally believes that the light-skinned, blonde-haired, blue-eyed German is superior to everybody else. So that's the first one. But the old prejudices, I want to mention, so there are a couple things going on. The first of which is the idea that Jews for a long time were sort of looked down on in Europe because during the Middle Ages, Catholics taught that it was a sin to collect interest on a loan, right? So if I let you borrow 20 bucks, I'll say, sure, but you got to pay me back 25. Jews didn't have that particular belief. So Catholics were not opening banks, because why would you open a bank if you can't charge interest, right? That's silly. And Jews did. So Jews owned the banking in Europe in the Middle Ages, and bankers aren't always loved, especially if they have to foreclose on things or if they don't give you a loan when you want one, or it seems that they're wealthy while everybody else is poor. And people make that shift from not just, I don't like bankers, to, well, bankers are Jews and they're already outsiders. So we don't like them. That's the second thing I want to mention. Why is it that the Jews are outsiders, and why are they all through Europe and Russia and other places around the world anyway? And this is also kind of a history lesson because, you know, if you open up the Bible, the Jews live in Israel. So the question is, why aren't the Jews in Israel in this time, or mostly? And the answer is that in Bible times, the Romans, especially in the New Testament, the Romans control Israel, and the Jews keep rising up against Rome. They don't like the idea that Rome is telling them what to do. They're their oppressors. And so Rome finally gets tired of all these uprisings and basically kicks Jews out of Israel and spreads them around Europe and parts of Asia, okay? Even some in Africa. So the Jews, wherever they are, they're not home, right? They're always considered outsiders in the place where they are in the Middle Ages and even into the early part of the 20th century. So we've got these outsiders, people who control the money system. People didn't like them, and Hitler's like, all right, we're going to blame them for all of our problems. especially financial problems in Germany after World War I. And so when he's appointed chancellor, he very quickly passes a series of laws called the Nuremberg Laws. These are laws that basically just say Jews are second-class citizens. We're going to treat them differently. In fact, here's a list of them. You will notice, if you look especially at number 1 through 3, what they're really trying to crack down on is the possibility that Jews might have children with Germans, okay? They're very afraid of that because in the German mind, that would taint the, quote, pure Aryan bloodline. You might see number 4. Number 4 says Jews can't display the German or Nazi flag, but they have the right to display Jewish colors. You might say, well, that's weird. Why would they let them fly their own flag as a symbol of like pride? And the answer is it's one of identification, right? They want to know where these people are, so when they want to round them up, they can round them up. You might say, Mr. Gallion, but how do I know who I can date? Like, who technically, what if my grandfather was Jewish, the other, 3 grandparents are not? How do I know? Well, the Nazis actually published a chart that explains who you can and can't intermarry or have children with, which is just, it shows you how deeply rooted this is. Now, if you're thinking, you might say, I think I've seen this in some like pop culture type things. And yeah, you're absolutely right. When J.K. Rowling, for example, writes about the half-blood prince, right? Half-bloods, mudbloods, purebloods. She's actually echoing what was going on in Nazi Germany. And it's a very intentional decision she's making, because this is a great way to show these people are bad, because the thing that they're choosing to separate people from other people is very arbitrary. And that's problematic. So in Hitler's mind, as he expands throughout Europe, Poland, Czechoslovakia, France, and so on, he realizes there are Jews all throughout Europe. And in his mind, this poses a problem, because he cannot possibly round up all of the Jewish people and put them in, not everybody can live in a ghetto, although he'll try. So the final solution is going to be proposed. The final solution is a proposal to basically wipe out all of the Jews from Europe entirely. This comes to be known as genocide. The word didn't exist prior to World War II. It's actually created to describe what the what the Germans did to the Jews. To be clear, it's not just Jewish people. There are also 5.5 million others who will be killed in this extermination. When we say others, we include lots of different groups. We include gypsies. We include Jehovah's Witnesses. We include homosexuals. We include disabled people, right? Lots of different groups of people who the Germans just saw as undesirable were wiped out systematically over the course of this. The final solution kicks off in many ways with Kristallnacht. Crystal, like crystal, Nacht, night. So the night of the broken glass. This is when you have Jewish shops or homes that are going to be ransacked across Germany. Okay? Basically, the people of Germany have been whipped up into a frenzy by politicians, by anti-Semitic newspapers, and they basically say, we've had enough, we want these people out, and so they're going to destroy their homes and their businesses. Now, lots of people around the world know that this is happening, but the international community does almost nothing. In fact, pictures like this are going to be reported in news media around the world. You even have the New York Times front page, 1938, says the Nazis smashed, loot, and burned Jewish shops and temples until Goebbels, that's the Nazi propaganda minister, calls a halt. You might say, why would the Nazi propaganda minister stop this? Well, it lets him say, I stopped it, right? We didn't want this to go on. Of course we want to protect our people, right? But they let it go on for hours and hours and hours, long enough that you see lots of evidence of the damage in these pictures. Now, despite this, there's very little action taken against Germany. The United States does not relax its immigration laws to allow Jews to come in more easily. We don't do anything to stop the shipments of Jews off to the concentration camps, the death camps. We probably could have done more. To be fair, we didn't know the extent of what was going on, but we probably should have noticed that large numbers of people of Jewish descent were being rounded up and shipped off. That's a problem. When the war ends, we learn the extent of what had happened to the Jews, and we're completely shocked by this. And this is where I had to take out the pictures because YouTube didn't like it last time. suffice it to say, 11 million people are dead in the span of just a few years, really from Kristallnacht 1938 until 1945, when the war ends. As the war ends, a number of the masterminds of the Holocaust are going to kill themselves or die. And so we're able to take 24 officers who work in these camps and we charge them with war crimes, crimes against humanity at Nuremberg. Okay? They all claim, though, that we're just following orders, right? We're just doing what we were told, and you can't hold those people accountable because they're already dead. And out of the 24, we hang 12 of them. I believe they're hanged. Actually, shouldn't have said that. We execute 12 of them. This demonstrates that the world is going to hold individuals responsible for their own actions. So if you're in war and you're commanded to do something unethical, you have a responsibility to say, no, I'm not going to do that. That's too far. This also sets the precedent for future war crimes. The really sad thing is you would think that this example that we set is going to just completely stop other war crimes around the world, but it doesn't. Genocide continues. You might have seen Hotel Rwanda, about a genocide that happened in the 90s. There's a genocide that happened in the Sudan in the last decade. Even right now in China, there's a group of Chinese Muslims called the Uyghurs who are being locked up. Some are being killed. Their children are being re-educated. This is something we see around the world even today. Now, the outcomes, remember this is a chapter about outcomes from the war. One of them is we realize the Jews can't always be the outsider. This thing is going to continue to happen until they have a home. And so the United Kingdom says, well, we control the land that the former nation of Israel back in Bible times was existed in. Let's give them back that land. And so they create the land, the nation of Israel. And the United States recognizes it immediately and still to this day is a strong supporter of Israel. Now, I want you to understand the complexity here, okay? We're very pro-Israel. I'm very okay with that. But you also have to realize that for almost 2,000 years, the Palestinians lived in this land, which is why today they say, this is our land. It was taken away from us. Yes, we were colonized by the British, but that doesn't mean that, we consented to have this land being given up, which is why it's complex. And I'm not telling you should or should not support one group or the other. I'm just saying it is, there are two sides to the story and you should be aware. As the war winds down, we realize it would have been really helpful to have an organization that existed to try to bring peace to the world, like people who get together and talk about what are these issues and what does the world as a whole believe about this. And so the United Nations is founded, and for all of its imperfections, it makes sense that we would have a place for countries of the world to get together and meet for these purposes. One of the first things they do within about 3 years of its founding is they sign a Universal Declaration on Human Rights, which includes all these rights you see there: life, liberty, free speech, asylum, for all people, not Americans only, but for everyone. It's not binding, can't force anybody to do that, but it is a goal that we hold out for all countries to give these rights to their citizens. Hey guys, that's it. That's the end of 7.4, at least the notes. There is an assignment here, something I am going to ask you to do. I'm going to record a separate video for that because this one's slightly long. So check that out, and we will talk to you guys real soon.